African Business Week for this further occasion of a dialogue, another webinar, another chance to think about relationships between Italy and Africa, I would say in a rounded way, 360 degrees. Really welcome also to the other guests and speakers, and I would just mention the Bonelli Erede with in the person of Michele Saponaro and Giampiero Succi, and also the presence of Alexis Mohammed, which is a special advisor to President Gwelle of Djibouti, Gela Abdulkadir Abdirahman, operational manager at Benadir Pharmaceutical in Mogadishu, and Tadele Sinesibat, business manager at Green Rivo in Addis Ababa, and also a warm welcoming to all participants and listeners and people, friends of the EABW. I'm very happy today, and I will be very, very short because my role is moderation. As a moderator, I don't want to be too wordy about that. The important thing for me is that today we have the occasion on focus on something that I liked the first time the EABW proposed me to participate in, which is rebranding Italy in Africa. The term brand is evocative of an incredible number of possibilities, of chances. We talk about storytelling. We talk about, I would say, emotional intelligence. We think about creativity. We have a lot to say when we talk about branding, and all the more so since we talk about branding or rebranding Italy into the world, and especially into the African continent. So the idea is particularly focused on a real and important matter, and so I would say that today, with the help of the other speakers, we may have important contribution in order to have more fruitful thoughts on how Italy can do better and must do better into the African continent, and allow me vice versa, because this is the most important thing also today and nowadays. We're talking about a people-to-people, partner-to-partner relationship. So it's not only what Africa expects from Italy, but also what Italy expects from Africa. And this is the most important part into a relationship like this, which involves politics, security, peace, development, cooperation, trade, commerce, finance, culture, and socioeconomic factors. As you know, in June 2020, we launched this very important, I would say, breakthrough into not only foreign policy, but commercial foreign policy of Italy to the world, and especially to Africa, which is the Patto per l'esportazione, the Pact for the export. It has been said a lot about this, and obviously I wouldn't overburden the discussion with details that everybody can find up into the web, into the internet, or into official documents. But let me focus on the most important issues that I think are particularly to be greeted with enthusiasm in terms of rebranding Italy in Africa. In this Export Pact of June 2020, launched by Ministry for Foreign Affairs Di Maio, we have, as you know, 6 important pillars, which are communication, training, e-commerce, fairs systems, integrated promotion, and facilitation into finance. Among the 6, allow me to put aside for a while also, because a lot, as I said, has been written about, and let me focus about a couple of those, which are, in my opinion, the most important step forward Italy did into this search on how to improve the Italian narrative into the world and in Africa. First of all is a focus on value. When we talk about communication, it is previewed in the next weeks the launch of a plan from Italy in which we will talk about Italian values. This is something that I've always been attached to. I also have a little teaching at university. The name is Intercultural Diplomacy, that bases all knowledge on the importance of using in the right way the value dimension and exploiting, in a good sense of the word, exploiting the term value when we want to change or we want to improve or we want to widespread the narrative, the positive narrative of a country like Italy. So if we talk about values into communication, probably the first values that can come up to the imagination of foreign people towards Italy may be the fact that we're talking about high quality, high class, elegance, um, good product, availability, but my interest is to focus on the deeper and the deepest value that probably are under the superficial values I just mentioned. And the values of Italy we're talking about now, which probably are the pillars and the basis of the strongness and the strength of Italy, and probably the dimension we have to work with are inclusiveness, intercultural approach, patience, courtesy, openness. Every time I go around in the world, there is always a foreigner reminding me that Italian good people. What is important now in this
Se non c'è
particular
niente.
Forse sarebbe la prima delle cose, perché se c'è,
in this
se c'è
particular
qualcosa.
I'm sorry, somebody has the microphone open, so I wouldn't hear any kind of private expression to be widespread to everybody. So what is important to me is understanding why people say Italiani brava gente, Italians good people. Is on this particular matters, issues that we have to focus on. In this case, we're talking about this kind of values, the inclusiveness, the patience, this way of contacting at the trade level, at the political level. We have this capacity of going on people to people, community-based programs. And this way of treating the other in a form of not fake courtesy, but on the contrary, in a way that our partner may be and may feel included. So what I think it could be important in this occasion and also in future is to focus on strengthening the most important values, which are the pillars of our positive narrative all over the world. We give them too much for granted. We take too much for granted in the world, but the truth is that only deepening the source of this Italiani brava gente, of this Italians good people, we may recuperate our narrative and probably also conceive new forms, new shape of brand of Italy into the world. The first step has been taken. We talk about a communication program, which at the very beginning will be focused on values. And let's see what kind of values we will face on into our common and general rethinking. Then we will talk about fairs, we will talk about sectors, we will talk about our products. But the important thing is focusing on value and communication. So is this the basis and probably the lens I would like to interpret and I would like to moderate today our meeting all together, talking about this rebranding Italy in Africa, not talking about effects, but going back to causes and thinking about what Italy is proposing and why Italy has this very good narrative. As Meret at the very beginning said, she remembers the Banco di Roma. And as Meret, a lot of people, when I was ambassador to Sudan, came to me and said, I remember when Italy had, I remember when Italy was, I remember when Italy went. This is something that, as Meret said, started very well and for some way also slowed down maybe too much in respect to other competitors, especially in Africa. But the good news is that in Africa, whatever the country, in the Sahel area, in the Horn of Africa, in the Austral Africa, there is a good perception of Italy. There is a big perception of Italian potentiality. So now it's the turn of institutions, enterprises, entities, agencies, civil society to strengthen more and more the positive narrative of Italy towards the continent and the African continent. That's why today, passing the floor also to our colleagues, I would like to try to take you by hand in order to do together a pathway which is always focused on values and listening to the peculiar experience of everybody of you. It would be, in my opinion, I hope you agree with
Vous
me.
m'entendez, Monsieur Alexis?
Interesting.
Oui, là, je vous entends.
Could be very
ça c'est bien. Alors là, je vais commencer à traduire. Bon, Monsieur l'ambassadeur disait...
Okay.
Pier, scusa un attimo.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe now I can leave the floor for a little translation. I was just ending my speech. Please go on with the translation, Pier Vincenzo.
Okay.
No, sorry, just to make sure. We will have the translation by Pier Vincenzo when Alexis will take the speech.
Okay.
We will, it's a technical issue that we are managing.
Okay. So I think that Pier Vincenzo should manage privately the translation of the meeting with Alexis. Very good. Okay. In any case, so let's go on the pathway of values. Branding and rebranding Italy on what values? On what? Let's listening for the singular experience of entrepreneurs, of operators, of professional, of international trade, international banking, international politics, and let's try to see if it's possible to draw some conclusions in the end based on this valorial dimension, which is the strongest part of the Italian positive narrative in the world. I would say maybe we can start with a big and very important example of, I would say, Italian final arm into the world, as Bonelli Erede is, especially in a continent like Africa. And I see that we have Michele Saponaro also representing our friend Giampiero Socci. And please, the floor is yours, and we will be listening to your experience.
Thank you, Ambassador, and thanks Meret and Cleophas for organizing this webinar, and thanks to all the panelists. I have to say that listening to your speech, you gave me a lot of input, even more than the input that you gave us yesterday when we discussed briefly. And but I think to try to make to stay within the time that I've been assigned, I will start from your keyword values. What are the Italian values that in a way can define an Italian system? Thinking of the brand, what I thought was thinking of some features that in a way distinguish Italian system or the Italian approach at different level. So I will organize my speech through 3 levels. trying to attach to each level what are those, let's say, typical Italian features that in a way may boost, may help, may develop also in the light of our personal and direct experience in the African countries, especially in the countries of the Horn of Africa, how these features can play a pivotal role. To start with let's say the professional level, I am a lawyer. Bonelli Rede is a law firm with offices in Africa. We have offices in Cairo and Addis Ababa. And so I had the chance to have a privileged observation point in Addis Ababa where I lived for more than 1 year. And after my living there, I kept traveling every month for weeks especially in Ethiopia, but from there I travel across all the Horn of Africa. At the professional level, what I think and what is the approach that we apply in our profession is a direct and personal engagement in the work we do. I think that this has something to do with the values that Ambassador was mentioning. What we think is that the success, for example, in our sector, is to have a direct engagement with our colleagues. For example, in Addis, we have an office in Addis. We are in the field. We are with our friends and colleagues working together. Everything that come up from our office in Addis is the result of a teamwork made from the Italian side and from the Ethiopian side. Because we think that only this direct engagement may create a long-lasting relationship. Merit was mentioning, no? Italy was there. Where is it now? The target is to create long-lasting relationship in a country, and this is what we try to do with the full integration with our offices in Cairo in Egypt and in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, because this creates quality. This gives the possibility to let's say, to apply, of course, a model that is of our office in a different context, but being there, being in the country, gives you the opportunity also to take into consideration what are the particularity, the features of the country in which you operate. And I think that this is something, this is an approach that distinguishes not only us as professionals, but, for example, many of our clients who operate in this country. It's not easy to operate in a foreign country in general, but in an African country, because in a way, of course, you have challenges. At the same time, be there, give you the chance to understand exactly what are the problems, the opportunity, gives you the chance also to not to overestimate certain problems that from the outside can be, for example, overestimated. For example, just to give you an example, many of our clients, when they open a subsidiary in Ethiopia, that is a country that I know better, they try to make the subsidiary as much as local as possible with the local general manager, or in the case with the, even though the general manager is Italian, there is always another person, sort of deputy general manager, that has to grow with the company. There should be always this kind of sharing, because the added value that we can bring is Italian, is a transfer of knowledge. We have centuries of experience that can be given and that can then have to be shared. And this is something that not all the countries have. Is something that not all the foreign investors apply. Coming to another level, let's see, to a more a macro level, talking about political and economic level, I would say that Italy has always been distinguished by a multilateral approach. We were discussing this also with the ambassador. And from an economic aspect, our company, they have been used to play on a level playing field after the creation of the European Union single market. So these two features, multilateralism and capacity to compete and to play on a broader market, fit exactly with the trend that now is interesting the African continent. After the entry into force of the agreement establishing the free trade area in Africa, it will be having this multilateral approach and being having this attitude to play on big market. It's something that, of course, may help and to create a profitable relationship. Let me tell you, I will not go into much into detail, into technical detail, but all the observers think that this agreement is of paramount importance. The target of this agreement are to create a single market for goods and services in the African continent, and to facilitate the movement of business person and goods, to create free movement and of investment as well. What are the actions that are in place to create this single market? Abolishing tariff and non-tariff barriers, not only customs duties, but also all those obstacles that are not customs, but in a way create some barriers among the African countries. What is the effect that is envisaged by this treaty? Is to, of course, to increase the intra-African trade, because the last data, to 2020 data, say that the intra-African trade is only 18% of all the trade. So the African country, they import and import more from outside Africa than among themselves. But this treaty has may have a second effect that is very important, that is to increase the foreign direct investment into Africa. Because for let's say an Italian business, for example, an Italian company, will be extremely interesting to invest in an African country, because this way, producing through of course, and producing in a country means transferring knowledge, transferring know-how, will give the possibility to the company to benefit from the privilege treatment that is provided by this treaty. So this treaty will increase not only the intra-African trade, but also will have as a spillover effect the increase of foreign investment. Of course, the most direct aspect that is still under negotiation is a clear definition of the rules of origins, in order to make sure that something that is that the product and the services that can benefit from this kind of privileged treatment, they have to be manufactured and processed in an African country, in order to prevent from, let's say, fake production coming from outside, only to benefit and in a way to take advantage of the privileged treatment. Then I would like to end with the third level, that is the socio-economic level, and that gives me the chance also to show you a small example, a concrete example of how, as a law firm, we are trying to facilitate the relationship between Italy and African country. Let me say that one of the features of our Italian system is a strong role of the trade associations and a form of partnership between private and public sectors. We, as a law firm, we made use of the economic diplomacy tools in order to create a link between some African producer of agricultural products and Italian importers. We were contacted by the embassy of the foreign country because they found out that some agricultural products that were imported in Italy were produced in that country, but were bought by a third country from outside of Africa. So they said, why you buy these products from this third country, and why we do not try to create a direct link between the local producer and the Italian importers? What we did, very simple, we contacted, in this case, Confagricoltura, that is the Confederation for Agriculture. This is the association that gather all the businesses in the agricultural sector, and an association of importers of those specific products. And we put them in contact with the association, the local association representing the exporters. I asked to the people from Confagricoltura, why you didn't, why there was not this link before, and said, because our importer didn't know whom to contact. They didn't have a direct contact with the producer. So we did something that in reality is not so difficult to do, even though it was not easy, of course, to organize a platform in which to make to facilitate this matching between, because this is a win-win. It's a win-win situation in which you can buy directly from the local producer, increasing their income, because of course they can sell to a higher price. At the same time, the Italian will not have to, let's say, to pay the brokerage commission of the third country. So this is just a small example of how using an approach that is very typical of our socio-economic system may and taking advantage of the organization that are already there on the territory can boost and improve and mutually benefit. I heard this word. I think with Abdul we were discussing mutual benefit is one of the key words. And so this is it. This is I try to give you. So I try to put into our experience what the values and features of an Italian brand may mean when you operate in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Michele. Very, very interesting points. I will be very, very short in, I would say, synthesizing some points that maybe could be part in the end of some conclusions that we may draw, also according to your experience. The first very important thing that you mentioned is the fact that in order to brand or rebrand positively a country into another country, you have to be there. Is the presence into the field. The presence into the field is fundamental, and I have to say that probably Italy, just like other countries, sometimes has to rethink the idea of having a sort of preferable attitude towards import-export or very short visits throughout the world and then coming back home very, very soon. In respect to other countries, I don't want to be obviously superficial with my example, but let's think about the Chinese way of thinking in a Confucian way. That means thinking about a generation. And so having people going for years in countries in Africa. So being into the field and being there, it's one of the most important things. The second point that you mentioned is the transfer of knowledge. It's very important because we're talking about human resources. We're talking about the direct contact between the knowledge from Italy to the African continent, to the African partners, which doesn't mean only a transfer of knowledge. It's a transfer of social, cultural, behavioral way of living throughout a long-lasting relationship. So, and this implies, again, a stable presence, which is very, very important too. So transfer of knowledge itself focus on and depends on a presence. It's a presence that is necessary in order to create synthesis, because rebranding Italy in Africa means not only thinking about an Italian brand in Africa, but it's a brand that has a strong African flavor, because it is not the brand that is important, but it's the way the receiver may interpret your brand and consider it positive or stronger or more effective than other brands. That's why, for example, when we talk about Italian courtesy, which is a fact, Italian courtesy in countries in Africa, in all over the continent, it's a great boost. It's a great tool, because courtesy in a lot of countries, I think about a lot of even Islamic countries in Africa, is the most important thing on which you may you may base long-lasting relationships, much more than a sign or than a signature under a contract. Is the courtesy, is a sort of dignity, the way you treat the other and the way you expect to be treated back. So it's very, very important also this as a value. And last but not least, the fact that you mentioned the African continental free trade area, the Africa continental free trade area. It's more important not only in terms of free circulation of goods, on services, on people, and the African brands and the African intra-commerce. It's important because one of the most important tool and value of the Italian profiling into the world is multilateralism. Multilateralism means dialogue, and dialogue means dignity, means having people on the same level and talking and searching common grounds for mutual benefits towards the future. And this is also a very important value which comes from Italy. And Italy, for example, especially in politics, is very well known as a country that doesn't have secret agendas into countries in the world. And the fact of stimulating multilateralism is not considered as an hypocrite way of acting, but on the contrary, is considered as something on which countries may rely on because comes from Italy. So really, thank you very much for all these aspects you focused on. And if you don't mind, I would try to pass the floor to, I'm sorry, to Merit.
To Alexis,
Yes, I was going to Alexis Mohammed, which is the special advisor to Ismail Omar Guelleh, the president of Djibouti, which I hope, just after the lockdown on COVID, I could visit soon. And please, Alexis, the floor is yours.
Allô, je ne sais pas si tout le monde m'entend.
Oui, on t'entend très bien.
Ok, parfait. Je suis désolé, en fait, comme je venais de dire, en tout cas, je suis très, très content d'avoir été invité à ces webinaires. C'est vraiment un honneur pour moi, justement, de parler également de Djibouti et également des relations très anciennes entre Djibouti et l'Italie, parce que nous avons eu quand même une forte communauté italienne qui est encore également là sur Djibouti, puisque ça a été vraiment le grand passage de Djibouti en Éthiopie et également en Somalie. La grande communauté italienne a toujours été présente. Elle fait partie de l'histoire de la Corne également de l'Afrique. Et il est vrai que il y a beaucoup de choses aujourd'hui comment dirais-je, à reconstruire, me semble-t-il, dans les relations entre l'Afrique et l'Italie, notamment suite à ces nombreuses crises et également cette crise également sanitaire mondiale. Il y a vraiment en tout cas des opportunités sur lesquelles les continents africains, en tout cas moi ce que je connais je vais parler de l'Afrique de l'Est et l'Italie, doivent entreprendre. Et la République de Djibouti, en tout cas, reste très ouverte à l'ensemble des opportunités sur lesquelles ou des initiatives sur lesquelles on pourrait également travailler. Monter également, par exemple, des ateliers de réflexion pour pouvoir mettre ensemble de façon commune des projets d'intérêt commun entre les continents et l'Italie. La République de Djibouti, comme vous connaissez, est un pays extrêmement très métissé. Les communautés sont très diverses, les cultures sont très diverses, les religions également sont très diverses. Et puis aussi, je vais parler là que de mon pays, vous avez également la forte stabilité aujourd'hui régionale qui se passe en République de Djibouti. C'est un honneur en tout cas d'avoir été présent et je l'espère, mais vraiment de tout cœur, que nous aurons l'occasion de pouvoir, comment dirais-je, lancer une autre initiative, une autre action de webinaire, parce que là, moi, je suis obligé de me sauver pour aller vraiment à ma réunion pour 17h15 ici à Djibouti. Mais néanmoins, j'insiste, je voudrais vraiment insister aujourd'hui, le relation nord-sud, c'est quelque chose d'essentiel pour les continents, en tout cas divers. Et puis, vous le savez également que les continents africains possèdent une énorme jeunesse, possèdent également des gens, des Africains ont également des compétences extrêmement diverses. L'Africain aujourd'hui est extrêmement éduqué, est également je voudrais également parler un peu du génie africain qui est là, qui est une réalité également, parler de l'innovation ou autre. Mais toujours est-il que dans un monde globalisé, il me semble qu'il est vraiment essentiel, en tout cas, de travailler de façon commune dans le renforcement des relations nord-sud. Je pense que il y a vraiment matière aujourd'hui à renforcer beaucoup de choses sur lesquelles moi je reste vraiment disposé à pouvoir discuter et échanger avec tout le monde à l'occasion d'une autre organisation de webinaire. En tout cas, moi je reste vraiment à votre disposition. Vraiment, je m'excuse pour partir aussitôt. Et nous avons eu quelques difficultés techniques. Malheureusement, c'est les aléas de l'informatique. Et j'espère que la prochaine fois, on aura vraiment toute l'occasion pour pouvoir échanger, discuter, et puis notamment même au-delà de ces webinaires. Cléophas a mes contacts, donc il n'y a aucun vraiment problème de pouvoir se rapprocher les uns des autres également.
Thank you, Alexis. Even if for very, very short moments, I could say that also in order to widespread your message to the others, I would say that it was very important that you mentioned one of the most important issues of rebranding, which is diversity, la diversité. Diversity is probably one of the most important pillars for creating a long-lasting relationship between countries, between trade operators, between politicians, between development cooperation professionals. I would say more, when we talk about a brand, we don't talk about something that lives all alone in the sky and not kept by the other people. In a brand, into an Italian brand, an African young person should identify himself or herself. It's a question of imagination. It's a question of dreaming. Dreaming about the Italian brand is not dreaming something outside in the sky. It's dreaming for something that is very close, that I can get to if I do something, if I work with my imagination, and if I do my best in order to achieve that kind of dimension. So it's so important what you mentioned, and really thank you, because you reminded us that diversity is the basis for a good brand, and there is no brand without diversity. Il n'y a pas de brand de l'Italie sans la diversité, il n'y a pas diversité sans brand. So ça, C'est la nécessité de se identifier dans le brand, et ça se peut faire seulement si le brand est là pour être pris par les gens et pas au-dessus, sur le ciel et loin. C'est une question d'imagination, mais c'est une question aussi de proximité. Donc, c'est la nécessité d'être un brand italien qui peut être un vêtement pour le jeune africain qui veut rêver de l'Italie, mais pas seulement rêver, mais vivre à l'italienne. Donc, thank you very much.
Tout à fait. Tout à fait, d'autant plus, juste un petit mot. Moi, je remercie tout l'effort que l'Italie fait dans le cadre de l'accueil de migrants venant d'Afrique, à la fois humanitaire et autres. Et je voudrais que l'Italie aujourd'hui ait un peu cette perception qu'elle est aujourd'hui la porte d'ouverture de la diversité vers le Nord. Je pense que les Italiens doivent aujourd'hui vraiment se féliciter, même si parfois économiquement ça peut être très dur, mais l'accueil de façon humaine que l'Italie fait, l'ensemble en tout cas des efforts que l'Italie fait dans les cadres de l'accueil de migrants, quelles que soient les conditions dans lesquelles ils sont venus. Moi je dis historiquement, l'Italie comment dirais-je, restera en tout cas la porte de la diversité européenne, et vraiment je tenais également vraiment à le préciser. Je pense que l'Italie a compris aujourd'hui, quelles que soient également encore les difficultés, la nécessité aujourd'hui du sens de la diversité, de la vie en communauté également. Je pense que ce n'est pas quelque chose de négatif, au contraire, c'est quelque chose d'extrêmement positif. Et en tout cas, voilà, c'est le geste que l'Italie fait en ce sens, c'est quelque chose vraiment à être remercié en tout cas. Et pour l'école, il faut vraiment reconnaître les efforts, l'ensemble des efforts que font la communauté nationale et les gouvernements en tout cas en Italie. Voilà. Donc, je vais vraiment devoir là vous quitter. Je vous dis à très bientôt. Merci beaucoup pour votre accueil. Et je vous dis vraiment à très, très bientôt, Fabrizio. Merci également des explications que vous nous avez données actuellement. Je vous remercie. Bye bye à tous. À très bientôt. À très bientôt. Merci beaucoup.
Meret, do you think it's maybe we can pass the floor to Gela Abdul Kadir? What do you think?
Yes, please.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Very good, very good. So it's just going away, just with his speech. Alexis gave us another very important hint. When we talk about migration and we talk about just this, we always focus about this problem as a plague, which is a plague, especially when it's an illegal migration. But the fact is that even behind or beyond migration, we can find the value. And so we can find the brand. And the brand is inclusivity, is inclusiveness. And a country as Italy, as a peninsula, which always have been conquered by dozens of foreign countries, that makes us, just the way we are, and the puzzle of ethnic and dialect and way of being, probably all this makes us capable of a certain degree, a certain higher level of inclusiveness, which is very even when you have to face a situation like a great number in migration dimension. Okay, please, let's go on. And I would like to give the floor to Gela Abdul Kadir Abdirahman, Operational Manager at Benadir Pharmaceutical in Mogadishu. It's a great pleasure to have him with us. And if there is no problem with connections, the floor is yours. Abdul Kadir, you have to open the microphone. Open up the microphone.
Allora, come va?
Very good. Perfetto.
Okay, fine. First of all, I would like to reiterate the statement that I made in my opening statement. in Africa, there are opportunities in terms of agriculture, in terms of blue economy. We need the know-how. And Italian know-how is very well known. When we think about Italy in a historical way, it comes to our mind that Italians have been a risk taker a long time ago. Amerigo Vespucci was an explorer that found America. Marco Polo was the Silk Road. So in these very changing times, Africa is a house power. All kind of resources are there, whether they are mineral, they are agricultural, and the beautiful thing is in East Africa, Italy has already a comparative advantage. It has been there a long time ago, and the fact that Mehre was underlying was, I mean, there has been Banco di Napoli, Banco di Roma, the Più Grande, the most biggest exporter of salt was based in Somalia. So if we undertake these new projects, and as you said, with values, and as also Michele pointed out, where the interaction will be between both parties, Italian and Ethiopians, Italian and Somalis, Italian, all kind of Africans, then I think it will be a new phase. Because, I mean, the economic system of Africa is not very well developed because it has also, it's always been serving colonies. But now the world has changed, and I hope that Italy will be a leader in developing a new approach. And it's also important because of the political situation. Certain countries are not stable, and I think it's very important to establish groups that study so they can promote trade. For instance, we as Somali, we're not even part of WTO. We are on every stage where now we are establishing a trade facilitator. So a use of the entrepreneur and study groups, I think and a long-term policy, this can be a win-win situation. As you said, we can also stop migration, because in Africa there is opportunity of producing, exporting, and once you enforce that system, you know how, you will also limit the migration. People are migrating just because of lack of work. And if you establish an economic zones where people are fine, you can also limit wars and all type of negative thoughts. So Italy, I think 2,000 years ago, Rome was caput mundi. So Italy has a moral obligation in now taking this challenge and helping these new economic countries and creating the link to overcome all these problems. So I guess you can continue from there, hoping that is a positive point.
Absolutely, Abdul Kadir. Thank you very much. I would like to, before saying something about what you just said, I'm very interested not only as a chief of the Horn of Africa, but also I love Somalia since, you know, just I was very, very young, because I had my professor that was a scientific expert there. What do you think, in your opinion, should be a rebranding of Italy in Somalia that could win the heart of young people or of Somali people? What do you think the formula, the recipe that we may have in Somalia in order to win the heart of Somali people as an Italian brand?
Okay. For instance, I operate in pharmaceutical products. I try to establish diabetic central control in Somalia. Most of the products that we have been using for almost 6-7 years were Italian products. Now there is lack of products, and the very fact that, you know, nowadays the world is a global village. It's a global village for if you have the correct passport, but like for as it's not a global village, it's a global prison, because I want to go to Kenya, I have to, it's very difficult. Going to Europe is another thing. So there is no mobility. If, and what we're asking is not, I mean, a handout, or that's not, I mean, we're asking to be able to operate economically, given the opportunity to go buy things. And if we were to see that Italy that definitely has a special, has special relation with Somalia, those products will come back, you know, it will be very, very, all the hospitals that are in Somalia, I mean, have Italian names. Definitely, there are people that came, doctors that came, we appreciate. There are also three times, I mean, group of businessmen that came there. And unfortunately, things did not develop, you know, it's like people come talk. And so if you were really giving opportunities for Somali businessmen in terms of pharmaceutical, in terms of the Italian product will come back, because the Italian product is genuine. I mean, Italy has an edge in competitive edge in so many products, but seems that, you know, seems that it's almost impossible to, you know, readjust these things. So if, again, the schooling system, part of the schooling system in Somalia was based on Italian. The university was in Italian. There are so much that Italy has done. When definitely now we are at zero level. But to begin with, if you start helping the business community, when I'm saying the business, I mean really entrepreneur, people that are really willing to go there. Because, for instance, I give you an example. There are products, pharmaceutical products, say like ketabios, like products that are already, that are no more used. We could buy the patents. We could do the production there. Because in Africa, there is the huge problem, the quality of the products that come in there. So if you were to open, people can produce. Pharmaceutical products now are coming from China, coming from third world countries. We can set there. There has been with Farm Italia project before. You know, this is one of the first things, because we are going through a very difficult, critical period in terms of availability of biomedical products and medical products. So I think that would be a good start.
Thank you, Abdul Qadir. It's very important what you say. I would synthesize with this sentence: a brand, in order to be a winner, should be consistent and accountable. Otherwise, it's not a brand. Otherwise, it's something that lives into hyper uranium into the sky, and shouldn't be at the take of people. And thank you also for the suggestion of creating group of studies, and especially youth entrepreneurs, because only interpreting the reality through eyes and hearts of young people, our brand, the Italian brand, can be rebranded for the future in the most effective way. So thank you very much, Abdul Qadir, for your contribution. And if you don't mind, I would give the floor to Tadele Sinesibat, which is the business manager of the Green Rivo in Addis Ababa. The floor is yours.
Thank you everyone. I'm really sorry about the disastrous network which had happened because of the heavy rain that we have here. So I am a state manager of Green Rivo company, which is an agricultural company which is working on the development of affordable greenhouses. Apart from that, I also own an import company called Sprint Imports, which mainly imports capital goods such as industrial generators, industrial pumps, vehicles, and so on and so forth. And fortunately, I import products from Italy, which are products like industrial pumps and industrial generators, and which I'm really happy about the products because of the high quality and the premium quality they offer. So I would like to see this situation from a different angle, and I didn't hear anyone mention about this problem, about what happened with the brand of Italy in Ethiopia and maybe the rest of other countries. And honestly speaking, people from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, those generations really miss the products of Italia, and because they get used to it a lot. In Ethiopia, there were, especially in Addis Ababa, there are very nice buildings which were built maybe 50 years ago, probably even 90 years ago, and they are still intact. And people are admiring those construction techniques which were used by the Italian engineers. And for your surprise, there are still some small bridges on rivers which were built back in the days to 1945, and they are still working perfectly. And this gives me the value of the Italian products for strengths, quality products, and very beautiful engineering. And those people that I've mentioned from the 3 decades are really interested in Italian products. Now, all of a sudden, in this new millennia, China happens to come to Ethiopia and dominate all the products with a very compromised quality and a compromised price. So that dominates the general market in Ethiopia. And I can say maybe for other African countries as well. And the thing is, the Chinese people are very smart to this aspect because they are physically here to make sure that their products are selling very well. And I think this is some point that the Italian companies lack, because maybe 1 guy or 2 guys are here in a company and that's it. For China, they come like 10s and 20 of people in a company, and they work the marketing very perfectly. They get used to the Ethiopian way of living. They eat together with the Ethiopians. They speak the same language. They quickly learn Amharic, and so that they can understand what people need. And unfortunately, in Ethiopia, the people are very much cost conscious, and they prefer to have cheaper products for various reasons. And the Italian products come with a higher price. That diverted the demand from Italian products to Chinese products. So I think at the policymakers level and with some elites from Italian companies should come here and try to discuss with the Ethiopian government on how to make a very good market for their products, because the Ethiopian government really wants to have very good products. There is a saying, cheap is always expensive. So if you buy a Chinese product for $5, you have to maintain it again and again. So at the end of the day, the product cost is going to be very expensive. But for Italian products, you may get it for a higher price, but it can last forever. That makes it cheaper. So, you need to market these concepts in Ethiopia, especially with the government, because they are dealing with lots of infrastructure constructions. And the Chinese companies are here, they build a bridge, and the bridge collapses just maybe, I don't know, in 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. So that makes the project very expensive. But if Italian companies are here, if they are present in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, and lobby with the government, they can have, these infrastructure projects which can last for centuries, I can say. So this is one aspect that the Italian business people should consider in rebranding Italian products and Italy itself in Ethiopia. So I think this is worth taking note. And probably the other point that I would like to raise is, if you go to customs office, the customs system in Ethiopia puts a higher tax rate for Italian products for their premium quality and premium price. That makes the product a little bit, expensive than the Chinese one. The Chinese rate is low, the Italian rate is high. That is based on the origin of the country. So I think the Italian embassy here and through the Chamber of Commerce, maybe you can lobby, with the government to consider the higher tax rates to come lower, and so that Italian products can dominate the market. I personally would love to have Italian products, German products. They can last forever. I drive Mercedes-Benz, and it is, I can say it is, technically speaking, the cheapest car that I have, because maintenance is going to be made by, I don't know, for like 5 years or 7 years. It works perfect. For a Chinese car, it breaks down just like in few months. So people need to understand the quality of the Italian products and how they are sustainable products are being produced in Italy. So these are the points that I would like to raise, and maybe we can further develop it if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tadele, and thank you for your very valuable contribution. I just noted down, for example, the fact that according also to your thought, which I agree on, when we talk about a brand, we don't talk about only the past and the present, but we talk about the future. So
Yes.
we have to get a brand as more, I would say, sustainable, accountable in years to come. And this cannot rely only on the quality of the product, for example, as the beauty or the strength or the professionality of a bridge or of a dam or of a turnpike in the world. This is only 50% of our task. The task of Italian institutions, of Italian government all over the world, and what we are doing also through our embassies in the world, is to maintain long-lasting contact with the institutions in order to find the best way to find a balance between the quality and the narrative of the Italian product, but as you said, the price and the accessibility of this product to people. As ambassador in Sudan, I experienced exactly the same, which the switch of consumers towards sometimes cheaper product and items, and sometimes also we have a good example on how to place important product between a very high level dimension prices and a very low dimension prices, trying to boost the idea that spending a little bit more means having something forever. And this is absolutely probably one of the most important things, to find the balance between the idea of saving money to cure or the idea of spending too much, just hoping that everything will be all right in the future. So it's an institutional task. It's important. And fortunately, I have to say, as a member of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and according also to the strategy of the export, the idea and the efforts that we're putting with our embassies and consulate and agencies all over the world is really cyclopic. It's very important. Also because probably you agree with me, when we talk about brand and when we talk about commerce, we cannot separate anymore the idea of commerce from culture, commerce from cultural enterprises, commerce and trade from development cooperation, commerce and politics, what we call integrated promotion. And this is what we're boosting a lot. So thank you, Tadele. Well noted also for our last conclusions. And maybe if our friends of the Italian Africa Business Week agree, maybe we can leave the floor for eventually some questions, or maybe just you can intervene by microphone, or maybe you can write on the chat. We are at your disposal in order to to answer back to some doubts or questions, or even to listen to other thoughts and other perspectives from participants. So the floor is yours.
Maybe I can ask to all of you. I think one of the problem on dealing with between Italy and African country, it's also the lack of continuity in the relation and a kind of follow-up after the official visits. A lot of time we, as a Italia Africa Business Week, we heard from our partners that what is missing in this dynamic is the continuity on the project or on the agreement. So what do you think about? And which is the impact on the boosting or relaunching the Made in Italy in Africa?
Absolutely, absolutely. This kind of follow-up should be, I would say, should be taken into care in a twofold way. Inside the country, as for example, in a Ministry of Foreign Affairs dimension, but also with the institutions and with the foreign countries when we visit. This is an important issue. It has to be done. It is done already, but probably we need more efforts towards this pathway, because following up is just a way of lighting up the fire and make living the fire much more than the single visit. Absolutely. And thank you also for the perspective of Stefano Curini, spam manufacturers. I can 100% agree with the speech of Mr. Tadella. Absolutely. Yes, Robatti water pumps, especially in the eastern part of Africa, but all over Africa, we have absolute excellencies in enterprises, which I dealt with also in my work in Africa. So absolutely, we agree with Stefano Curini. Water pumps, for example, is one of the most important examples of quality, of Italian quality that lasts for a lot and generally leaves the client very happy. It's a case of a consistent brand, a real consistent brand.
If I add something about in relation to what Meret was saying and what also Your Excellency, because I agree. I think that the follow-up is one of the issue, and in order, I'm trying to do a sort of a constructive remark. Sometimes I also think then when the business forum take place with the aim to match Italian counterparts with Somali counterparts, Ethiopian counterparts, other African counterparts, I think that there should be also efforts from the local organization in order to profile as much as possible the company, the local company, with the aim to present to the Italian counterparts partner that can be real partner. At the same time, I think that there should be another effort, probably more from a government, a public level, from the country, in order to highlight and to point out clearly what are the business opportunity in the country. Because talking, I mean, I participate to tens of business forum. I was in Mogadishu. I was many times, of course, in Addis, Rwanda, etc. sometimes I talk with the Italian businesses, and they told me, look, there was a list. I wanted to meet this company. It was in the list, but then the company didn't show up. Maybe it was not a fault of the company. Maybe there was a lack of organization, or maybe some company they participate this business forum, but it's not really clear sometimes what the country needs. What are the sectors? Because I'm aware they are full of maybe projects that are already there, that they just need, sometimes they don't even need the finance. And then I want to add another point in order to make a comment to what Tadele was saying. I totally agree with him as well. Because sometimes what sorry if I use African, I would like to be more precise, no? The Somali business, but just that you understand. When I meet African business company that say, I need this kind of machinery, I need this kind of technology, I need this kind of knowledge, I want to meet someone who has this. So maybe sometimes it's not even an issue of finance, because, and then I come of money, because a big problem as that I see, as a law firm, we assist big corporations, but also small, very small companies. And I was very surprised when I saw very small company, maybe made of some very skilled technician, Italian technician, that operate very easily, and they are very well versed in the market in which they operate. They have also very good personal connection with the people. The big problem of our company, and is a problem that Chinese companies do not have, it's the finance. It's maybe they have capital goods in terms of patent, in terms of machinery, but they do not have the money to sustain certain expenses. Or I'm a lawyer, so I'm what I do when I have to advise a client who want to invest or who want to export is to look at the regulation of the country. For example, in Ethiopia there is a minimum threshold. If you want to invest in Ethiopia, you have to bring a minimum of $150,000 or $200,050. So sometimes for a small company, it's a problem to have this money in his cash. Maybe they have machinery or they have patent that the value is even more than this amount. So, and this is just a suggestion that they put on the floor based on my personal experience of what I saw being in the field. It's maybe sometimes if you want to attract and to have Italian company not only exporting in the country but also producing in the country, maybe why not to allow to substitute this requirement with the possibility to bring machinery and know-how. So, and this, for example, would boost, because I know a number of companies that say, I would operate in the country, but I don't have this such amount of money. That is not such a big amount of money in absolute terms, but for a medium, small enterprise, Italian enterprise, can be a huge amount of money. And so sometimes I think that there should be also some direction, some guidance from, let's say, the country of origin in to be to find a regulatory way in order also to attract knowledge and technology transfer, not just finance. That is something easy for Chinese company, but can be less easy for Italian companies. This was just a suggestion. I hope that this can be taken as a constructive comments, not as a...
Absolutely, Michele, thank you very much also because you reminded me that one of the pillars also of the expert plan of Italy 2020 is also in training. And in this training, we thought about creating even more specialized units, which are the temporary commerce agent, which are people specifically with the task of probably filling those kind of gaps that sometimes we have between local entrepreneurs and the embassy, or the passage of information between the embassy and the Italian enterprises that could be interested into the business occasion and chances in the country. So it's already our work of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's in this case a sort of push factor, getting information and giving information. But in this case, with the creation also of new with this new training, with new shapes, with new units, maybe we can do more in order to match the necessity of the local market with the perception of the embassy, and at the same time to research and to reach at the best the entrepreneurial Italian world in order to match, you know, just in a due time, the necessity of the local entrepreneurship in order to create partnerships, long-lasting partnerships. So, and this is very, very important because sometimes we experience this kind of gap between, you know, just the local reality and the entrepreneurs coming from Italy, and sometimes not being completely content on what they should do. So it's another very important point, and a brand must take into account also about that, being I would say consistent and precise into focusing into the right direction, and not being content of a situation that may be similar or of a second best choice. This is our task, and this is a task not only for the entrepreneurial world, but also from the institutions.
I don't know if Tadele and Abdul want to add something.
Yes, Mehelet, maybe I can add some points, if that's okay with Abdul Qadir. One thing that I would like to mention on top of what Michele has said is that finance is sometimes a problem with many Ethiopian companies and maybe other African countries. It may not be, as you said, big money, but sometimes they might be a little bit short, you know, to bring quality products from Italy. And for your surprise, the Ethiopian government has took measures in facilitating credit lines so that the Italian companies, the Ethiopian companies can agree with the Italian companies to bring products based on their agreement for a credit service, and so that they can sell their products in Ethiopia. That certainly promotes such products which were lagging back because of finance and other banking issues. So such news are really good news for Ethiopian companies, because many companies would like to import quality products from Italy, and they want to sustain with that brand. I can name a few companies. They used to, import quality capital goods from Italy, and now, because of the challenge from the Chinese companies, they had to, divert themselves to Chinese companies. That, slowly erodes the presence of Italian brand in Ethiopia. And one thing that also lacks with the Italian counterparts is that we need to have the human element in this relationship, because this is what the Chinese people has been doing in Ethiopia, because they are here day in, day out, following up what the government is saying, following up what the Chamber of Commerce is saying, and, having dinners with Ethiopian business people. This gives them a very good insight about what is needed, what are the problems, and what are the solutions. So I think we need also to, bring more Italian people before the products and find out how things are working in this ground, so that they can devise a very good strategy to have presence, a long-lasting presence in Ethiopian market. So this is the point that I would like to raise as a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Tadele. Thank you. Any other questions?
Just to add a small point in relation to what Michele and Mr. Michele and Mr. Tadele have said. You talked of attributes of a brand that involve inclusivity and I think and mutuality in the sense of being open and diverse. So my point here is the discussion has been great and very informative, but what I think it has been inclined in a way that it is what Italy is providing. I was thinking about in the sense that since we are trying to avoid this total dependency, is there a way that we can have this mutuality being attained in that it's not that when we see Italy is what is Italy bringing, or could it be in a way that we have what is Italy benefiting from the countries in the Horn of Africa? In that, so that when we talk about pumps, we see Italian pumps are good, but now what is Italy seeing in these countries in the Horn of Africa? Not in a generalized manner, because in this case we can see we have there is some specificity given to Italian products, I'd say, so that there is some form of mutuality in how these benefits are being redistributed. I think also something that could be added in terms of what pertains a brand is perspective. How we view not just the people or rather, but the products, or because most of when you sometimes I watch news, and when you see the discussions being done on these huge or rather top level business tables, most of them are they end up ending on the top level. They never get to the grassroots. So in that you just the real day-to-day man who needs who gets to feel the effects of the such discussions that are made, or rather who needs to feel the benefits of the discussions that are made in such high-level meetings, never gets to hear about them. Because when you talk about say the cars, it is the day-to-day man who gets to drive them. It's just not the top-level person. So when we talk about these things becoming very important, when we talk about the minerals that are being taken into the other side, as in how readily are these policies there to be implemented? So I think it's a multifold topic that involves both the diplomatic levels, that involve the normal citizen, in that there has to be ways that the normal citizen of both the Italian countries, the Italian country and the countries in the whole of Africa are being involved in such discussions. And also, it has to be in a way that we are not giving priority to one side and forgetting the other side. In that, as much as we would like to develop the Italian brand, but we have to get these attributes that the Italian brand already has and try use this for the African brands, so that we don't have this form of competition at home.
Absolutely, yes. It's very interesting what you're saying. And the most important thing that I would add is that is what also Europe is doing very strongly into founding new relationship with Africa and even Italy, which is trying to do our best in order to stimulate Africa and African countries and African products to have brands, to have a brand towards Europe. So probably one of the most important reason of postponement of a very important summit between EU and African Union, especially in September, October, November, is because we are trying to trying to pushing in a positive way our African counterpart in order to say, let's talk by the same level, not with a mutual benefit. And this involves also the brand issues, because it's not only a question of Italian or European brands in Italy, in Africa, but also on the way around. The idea of having African brands, you know, that can win the heart of people in Italy and Europe. So it's very fair and very right what you're saying. Okay, Meret suggests me that we have two more intervention, two more perspectives into the yes, innocent. Like here in Rwanda and East Africa, the past generation knew with appreciation, but today our generation don't know much about Italian products. So to rebrand the Italian products, I would like to suggest organizing farm trips to connect African and Italian entrepreneurs. I think it's very nice tip. Bring back Italian products on African market with quality and reasonable price. Absolutely, you are going into the same direction, and it will be easier, cheaper, and successful to rebrand Italian products by reproducing them from here in Africa. For example, Rwanda is one of the best countries you can easily start and make business. So Italy can make their investment. So thank you very much, Innocent. It's very interesting. And Teresa, I cannot read the other one from the employee of the PACCI. Let me see.
Yes, it's the Mamadou.
Mamadou, yes, Mamadou.
It's just a great.
Okay. Okay. Yes, my name is Mamadou Diarra, and I'm here on behalf of, yes, the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce. Okay, I look forward to getting the outputs of this engaging and relevant conversation. Absolutely, we will write on some kind of synthesis about that. I'm very happy, and obviously we will widespread the important conclusions of this night's meeting. Any others?
I don't see any others.
Me neither.
So we can try to go to the conclusion.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm quite surprised that we haven't touched the new Belt Road.
The new?
Belt Road and the impact and how the opportunity that, but this is something that we can have to arrange another specific.
Yes.
Because it's something that touch politically, economically the area, considering
Absolutely.
that it's the way to connect the East with the West.
Yes, yes, Meret, you're right. Maybe we should organize, just one specific seminar on that.
If I can add just one last point, it's we talk about connecting also with what Francis said. We talk about Italian product, but we miss that the main, in my opinion, the main product, Italian product, it's the knowledge, the way of the knowledge on creating clusters, which are this kind of knowledge that it's really mandatory somehow for the Africa development. And regarding the financial issue that Saponaro mentioned before, we have also to remember that Chinese, when they find an obstacle, they go back and come back with a solution. Today we have a lot of financial instruments that can help in that way, but in my opinion, we don't have in Italy the information and the training on how to search and use those instruments. I think we need to invest a lot in that way, because we have investment plan in Europe, but also in Africa. And most of the time, Italian doesn't know that they can use them with a partnership. Today, most of the projects are welcome if they have inside partnership in the win-win manner. I think all of us have to think and start working on how we can boost this kind also of information and habit.
I agree. Partnership and partnerships, it's a potential booster of brand and rebranding Italy. That means that in commerce, in trade, we can overcome differences. We can walk together towards mutual benefits with the African continents, and we can find different partnerships that maybe sometimes in politics are much more, just difficult, or they may provoke some kind of crisis, which in commerce, when the ethics at the basis of the project is right, the project is right itself. So you're right, maybe in the next future we can organize also something about the chances of partnerships with historical and less historical partners into the African continent. In my personal experience, Chinese and people from Turkey were on the front line in Sudan in terms of building roads, belts, dam, electricity, and in food, and in a great cooperation. It's a very touchy issue, so because, as I told you, involves civil society, involves all the world of even sometimes, just the way you work, the way you expect from your partner. But absolutely, just it's not a taboo. On the contrary, is one of the most important target that we should attain. Absolutely. Let me see in the chat if there is something else. Very good point, Meret. The partnership is the essence of the success representation of Italian brands and value. Thank you, Tadele. Absolutely, you are perfectly right. So if we don't have any other comments, maybe, I don't know, what about some conclusions? Meret, you want to go on, or maybe Cleophas? How do you prefer? How do you use when you do your webinars?
Normally, we ask to the speakers to have a last speech on and their point of view, suggestion on how to move forward, and then we can close our session.
Absolutely. Yes, if my colleagues, just allow me, and this will be also part of a non-paper document that we can widespread, because it's just some conclusions. But I think that we will focused on the fact that rebranding Italy in Africa is a complex issue, and I would say that it's a work that needs to be in the field, a long-lasting presence, and efforts that cannot be widespread only from remote. It needs a team working. It needs the transfer of technology. So it needs a focus on human resources, on training people paid and used for thinking how to penetrate not only the market or the pocket of people, but the positive part of their imagination. Values are at the base of brands and of the operation of rebranding into Africa. For example, we had also one of the example which may seem a little bizarre, like the fact that Italy and Europe support the multilateralism of the African continental free trade area, which on the contrary is not a nonsense, but is very coherent with one of the most important value of Italy and most countries in Europe, which is multilateralism, which is dialogue. dialogue between people on the same level in the search of common grounds. Then we spoke about diversity, the fact that a brand cannot live outside in the sky, far from the heart and the imagination of people, especially young people. It must intercept, it must catch the imagination and the heart of people. And to be like that, a brand must include the aspects, the local values. So diversity becomes fundamental, such as inclusion, inclusiveness, and intercultural approach in order to widespread the beauty and the positive strength of a brand. Also, we spoke about the fact that was very interesting. In order to have a brand effective, it must be consistent and full of accountability. If we speak about freedom, we cannot speak about freedom when there is no freedom to get an item, to get an issue, or at least to try to do our best in order to go towards our goal. And this was very interesting from our friend Abdul Kadir. So a brand must be consistent and accountable. Then we had the Tadele, which gave us, just important insight about the fact that Italian engineers, Italian fantastic masterpiece have been lasting for 70 years without any kind of problem. And so the important thing is to find a common ground between high quality, high prices, but also accessibility from the people. And we have a number of cases into the world. For example, myself personally, I remember a very nice operation of the Piaggio vehicle in Sudan, where the enterprise found a position between the very, very high prices of the Bajaj from India and the very low price from the Raksha from China. And in the end, we spoke about the fact that the brand is not only the present, but it's a concentrated, the synthesis of the past, the present, and the future. So in order to have a brand as consistent as we want, we must work on it. We must work on its productivity, on its strength. We cannot just launch a symbol or an icon and then leave it forever. And so we go back also to what you said at the very beginning. The Italian narrative still now bases too much its strengths from the past. We have to take the strength for the future, and not only, and for the present. And in the end, it's important to think about training people and professionals in order to think, in order to penetrate the imagination of local markets, in order to create a brand which can be the synthesis and the inclusion of the continent, the African continent itself. And I mentioned also this efforts of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with the temporary export agent, which will be part of this, I would say, important link between the gap that sometimes we may have between the local market, the institutions into the African countries, and the entrepreneurs in Italy that sometimes don't get the full information or the complete information that they want. So I think that we have quite a good number of characteristics in order to, to shape even better what we mean when we talk about rebranding Italy in Africa, which is not only working on superficial values or very well-known values such as productivity, accountability, the good product, elegance, the sustainability, but also going back to the roots. In this case, we're talking about Italy, but this is a subject that we can widespread all over the world. But we have to go back probably to what Italy is in a very deep, and why this narrative, even without a big effort, still remains intact into the hearts of all countries in Africa. And we cannot miss this occasion. We cannot waste such a patrimony, such a treasure that we have, and we have to do more and more to invest into the strength of this positive narrative. What more from Tadele or Abdul Kadir or Michele? Do you want to add something more?
Just a closing speech.
1 minute.
Maybe just, I mean,
yes.
your conclusion were very comprehensive and complete. Just let me comment what Merit was saying about sometimes it's true there is a lack of awareness also from Italian entrepreneurs that do not know all the instruments that are available to them. So just let me finish with the flash. Maybe, I mean, all the African friends who are connected now, remind your Italian counterpart that there are, for example, credit risk insurances and the possibility to access to finance provided by Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, Siemens, SACE, that are available not only for big projects, but also to relatively middle and small size projects. This was a really, I mean, an entire webinar should be dedicated to now the type of instrument, a bit technical, but it's true what you said, that there is sometimes a lack of awareness. And so that's why, and to come back to another keyword mentioned by Ambassador, more communication about what are the instruments that are available to companies in order to boost their reciprocal partnerships.
Thank you.
Tadele or Abdul?
Yes, Merit, I would like to say a few points here as a conclusion. The speech given by Ambassador was really perfect, and it was a very good insight towards rebranding Italy in Africa. I would suggest that as a conclusion to have a very structured approach in rebranding Italy in Africa, because it's a multifaceted scenario, and we need to organize a very structured approach dealing with the government, policymakers, the private sector, the chambers, and so on and so forth, plus the professional people who are vital in this kind of projects. So regarding the point that you have raised earlier, the sustainability and continuity of such projects and such programs are based on very articulated and very structured steps that we should take in bringing down the Italian brands and values in Ethiopia. So I would suggest that this kind of webinars and probably smaller gatherings and meetings are very important in brainstorming the approach that we should employ to win the case. So that would be my comment. Thank you very much, Merit, and everyone.
Thank you.
Good.
Abdul, are you here?
I would like to thank everyone. I hope in the continuity of this program, and I also like to stress we as Somalis, we are present in almost every market in East and Central Africa. So the advantage that the entrepreneurs bring is, I mean, good quality information that even a think tank cannot give you. So please try to develop in a capacity building way the entrepreneur, because it's the catalyst factor in promoting the business. Again, I hope that for a businessman, it's very important the movement. I hope that in case like Somalia, where there are no embassies, it's very difficult at times even to have to participate on fairs or events. So also please that also needs to be addressed, because I mean, unless you can move, you cannot participate in anything. Again, I thank everyone, and I hope in the continuity of this program.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are at the end of our webinar. I thank you very much, all of you. I found it very interesting, and this is for us is a starting point, because we are working on the 4th edition of IABW, which is will take place in Milan, in Rome, sorry, next November, where we aim to discuss deeply the rebranding Italy in Africa in the way of restarting dealing and take a commitment to reopen or boost the relation between Italy and the African countries, because what we have also to be conscious that probably due to a lot of issues, Italy still doesn't look in an open way to Africa. We have to consider that today we can talk about businessmen, African businessmen that can finance projects in Italy or in Africa. So we have really restart thinking, and as Tadele said before, reschedule how we can push the relation between both of us in order to create the new dynamic that bring the youth with in a new flow, a real create a new deal for all of us. So we will wait you in November. The 9. We have decided to have an hybrid event, so it's possible to be in live and online the first 2 days, 9 and 10 of November, and the 11 it's all online. So we can we have the opportunity to go ahead on this and other issue. We can arrange with Bonelli Erede and also the Ministry and all of you a specific table to discuss all the issue on Horn of Africa, but rebranding Italy and other issues that we can surely manage in order to boost this dynamic. Thank you and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Arrivederci.
Everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lobasso. Fabrizio. Thank you.
Thank you, Cleophas.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye.
Ah, no, vedevo Bertrand e Amadou, non riuscivo a capire, c'era la sua...
No, no, vi saluto. Grazie.